in the building.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. The ancillaries, as they say, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely, the ancillaries. Yes. So it's become, in a way, it's good. I'm happy to see. And they have, so for example, there is a rock climbing thing that somebody has started,
Okay.
for children.
For
Then
children.
for children. Then there is one aqua splash, which is all related to swimming and what have you. So everything for children only.
Okay.
And then, very interestingly, they have also allowed Pilates classes and other things for the mothers.
It's the
But
whole ecosystem.
the whole ecosystem, exactly. So no office.
So now you're having to relocate.
I have to relocate. Yes, So I found a good place. So I'm happy. A better place, because sheer inertia did not make me look for a better place.
Sure.
Now that they gave me no choice, I found a better place.
Rohit, whenever
Yeah,
you say.
I think, yeah. So we are live on the YouTube Lighthouse channel as well for the first time. We are doing something like this on this scale, where we have sent the invite to all the employees of Lighthouse Learning, and all our school staff is also there, and people are joining in. I can see the counter going up in terms of the number of participants who are logging on to the Zoom, as well as on the live YouTube channel. Uh, so welcome everyone. A very, very good evening to all of you. And really happy to welcome you all for the inaugural session of Sparks. Now, this is a new initiative that we have launched at this level, wherein we will be getting eminent speakers on this platform to inspire all of us with their nuggets of insights, their own trials and tribulations in their fields, their success, their failure, their insights, and their aha moments. And the whole idea is to bring in outside in perspective and seek some inspiration in terms of what's happening around us. So this is a great platform. And even more interesting is the genesis of this, right? So I recall Prajod and I, last month, we were having a conversation of seeding something like this. And he mentioned to me that there is a very interesting platform which is called Sparks, which exists in our school, wherein we invite speakers at the school level for some inspiration and insights. And then we got talking, and then there was a penny drop moment where we said, why reinvent the wheel? We will just steal with pride the brand name called Sparks and make it even more bigger and better. And this is for our own employees, entire ecosystem across all our footprint, and everybody is joining in. And the idea is very simple. We will, like I said, get one speaker each month. And I'm really happy that we have managed to rope in Pratap Nambiar for our inaugural session of Spark. Now, Pratap is not a new name for some of you, and because Pratap's association with Prajod goes a long way. But I will make my own attempt to introduce Pratap, which I'm sure I will not be able to do justice, but I will nevertheless try. So Pratap, is the executive chairman of Thought Perfect. He's based in Singapore, and very, very graciously has accepted to do this at 4 p.m. India time, which is actually late evening for him. It's 6:30, 6:45 right now in Singapore as we speak. But thanks so much for graciously accepting that, Pratap. So, like I said, Pratap is executive chairman of Thought Perfect. He is somebody who is really passionate about working with CXOs, business leaders, helping them grow through his coaching interventions, and also through curated OD interventions at the organization level, which will help organizations to transform their trajectory. And before founding Thought Perfect, Pratap was a professional like all of us. He has more than 35 years of corporate experience. His last stint was actually with KPMG, where he was a partner and he was based in Singapore. But before KPMG, he has worked with Eastman Kodak, with Bata Shoe Company, with Ernst & Young, and therefore carries very, very diverse experience, which cuts across industry segments, across organizations, and organizations of various life stages, and the challenges that those organizations have gone through, which now he beautifully weaves in all his interventions and his partnership with corporates that he does. And with that, like I said, I will not be able to do justice in terms of introducing Pratap, but I would seek help from Prajot, because Prajot's association with Pratap goes back a long way. And over to you, Prajot.
No, thank you, Rohit. I've known Pratap since the last now closer to about, it's a 4 to 5 year old association. It's closer to more 5 years that I've known Pratap. And it's been my true privilege to have known him. Pratap the person and Pratap the leadership coach to me. And Pratap really worked with me very closely. And I've had the fondest memories working with him so very closely. And some of you have also met Pratap when he did a session with us where we actually climbed Mount Everest. There were 30 of us in a room in Mumbai in which we actually climbed Mount Everest, which was a really exciting activity that we undertook. It was actually in a hotel room, but we all climbed Mount Everest on that day. So he's got that real knack to be able to work with people and make a real difference in their leadership style more than anything else. And I can tell you that I've been greatly benefited with his association with me and with Eurokids back then and now Lighthouse. And I'm so glad that he is with us today for more importantly, the inaugural session of Sparks. Thank you, Pratap. Thank you for joining us. But over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Prajot, and thank you, Rohit, as well. And it is a real pleasure. It is an honor to be the first person to speak on Sparks, and I'm sure there'll be many, many more delightful and more intelligent and smarter people than me who will come and speak on this platform. But I take my work seriously, as you know, and the subject that we decided to talk about today is related to culture. And I will share with you some slides, and let's see if that happens. Yes, it does happen, which is good. So the subject is about renovating Lighthouse Learning's culture.
Pratap, can you put it on the presentation mode if
Yes.
that is helpful?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, does that work? Can you see it now?
Not yet.
Not yet? Well, I can see it on the presentation mode right now.
Okay.
Can you?
No, not yet, Pratap, but maybe you can just...
what do I need to do?
Maybe you can just toggle your screen, and in case you see two windows, I think...
Now it's better. Is this better?
Yeah. Now we can see. Lovely.
Okay. Excellent. So the subject is renovating Lighthouse Learning's culture. And the really key word here is renovating. It's not about trying to change anything, but it's about renovating. It's like when we have been living in a house for a long time, and we think that looking at the future and the way we want to live our life, perhaps it's time for us to make some shifts. Maybe, as we say here in Singapore, we call it changing the feng shui, right? In terms of rearranging the furniture, maybe making a few new doors and few new windows, and adapting to the situation that we are faced with in terms of how the external environment is and how we can make the best of that environment. So This is exactly what we want to do. You have a new identity. You have a new identity. You have moved from the name EuroKids International, and you have a new identity. And in fact, I read on the website this wonderful quote from Prajod, and I thought it's really interesting. And I highlighted a few things in here in terms of how education ignites a sense of curiosity, not only in young minds, but in the education community and shaping who we are. And how, like a lighthouse, we strive to guide our students towards being change makers of tomorrow. So these are very important words, and they will resonate, as you can see, when we talk about the culture and other elements that are important. So here's the question: what comes before strategy? In fact, there's a lot of things that come before strategy: purpose, vision, values, and culture. So in that sequence, if you may, and culture being probably the culmination of the development of purpose, vision, and values, and then culture then driving performance. So all of this comes before strategy. And the important recognition, and in fact, I can connect it straight away to what we are experiencing now, or rather have been experiencing for the last 2 years because of COVID. One of the things that we have seen is that many organizations have gone back to reset themselves. This is something that COVID has actually engineered, is people who were nicely going along and galloping along and forgotten many things. And the things that they had forgotten was purpose, vision, values, and culture in terms of why are we doing the things that we're doing. And I've seen, for example, that some of the companies that have actually survived and have done well in the time of COVID are the ones who never really left these important dimensions. They have done well, they have done much better. And there's only one reason for it, and that is they have always focused on the long term. They have never sacrificed the long term for the short term. And that's exactly what the focus on purpose, vision, values, and culture does, is it makes us, from a leadership perspective, recognize that we are here for the long term. And the decisions that we take are the ones that will help us to embed ourselves and to establish ourselves and bring success for ourselves in the long term. So that's the single biggest. I remember Ajay Banga, who's the CEO of MasterCard. When COVID happened, one of the first things that he did was talk to every employee. And the first thing he said is, I can see where this is going. I can see and feel the anxiety of everybody in the organization. And here's a commitment that I'm making to you today. And I'm telling you that not a single person is going to lose their job because of COVID. So I'm taking away that anxiety. Now, this is a very bold statement to make. It was a bold statement to make without actually knowing how bad this is going to be, because he did it early on. And when he was asked why he did that, his answer was very simple, is that I'm not here for the next 1 year or the 2 years or 3 years. We are here for the long haul. And therefore, the decision making that happens here is something that never forgets the human factor. So if we ask ourselves, what is lighthouse learning? What is lighthouse learning? Lighthouse learning is a collection of people. You are the ones who make lighthouse learning what it is. So it's people. And when we are talking about purpose, vision, values, and culture, it's all about the human factor. So let me build on that. So the purpose helps you to find your why. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This is a very important thing to remember and to ask the question, why does lighthouse learning exist? It's a time for us to reopen this subject and to ask ourselves this question. It is a bit like Sunil Gavaskar used to always say when he had scored 50, and he would say, I need to take fresh guard so that I can get to 100 from 50. So in a sense, you should look at your own journey like that. as you become Lighthouse Learning, you have to take fresh guard and ask the question, why do we exist? Because the desire to do something, because you find it deeply satisfying and personally challenging, inspires the highest levels of creativity, whether it is in the arts, in the science, or in business. Which means that we have to serve a cause greater than ourselves. And remember that the purpose of life is to live a life of purpose. It provides activation energy for living. So individually, each one of you, if you don't take anything away from today's session, at least take this one thing away and ask yourself, what is my purpose? Why am I working at Lighthouse Learning? What does this work do for me? What does it mean for me? Right? And make your passion and your work one and the same, and do it with people you want to be with. This is the mantra. If you are passionate about something, which is the reason why you wake up in the morning, a lot of us, and I'm sure you will relate to this, wake up in the morning and say, oh, bloody hell, I got to go to work today. Right? But there are a bunch of people who jump out of bed and say, I'm looking forward to working today. In fact, I look forward to every day, because every day I get an opportunity to live my purpose, and it ignites me, and it motivates me, and it inspires me, and I'm passionate about this work. And you look around you and ask yourself, you can tell the people who are passionate from the ones who are just there because it's a job. That's not how it's supposed to be if you're working with Lighthouse Learning. Am I right, Prajot? Isn't that correct?
Absolutely, Pratap, absolutely.
It's
and the
not
work that we do, if you think about the work that we do.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's not a job. This is more than that. This is your life's work. So now I want you to do a small exercise and send this to Rohit, okay? All of you, and I hope every one of you does this. Just list your top 3 choices from here. Okay, this is a simple exercise, so just write this down, out of all these, or just think about it right now and just quickly scribble it down. But I want you to send this in an email to Rohit and tell Rohit, these are my top 3 choices. This is what I live for. Why is it that I live my life? I live my life for these 3 things, and just put that up. Yes, go ahead, Selma. Selma has raised a hand, so I'm asking Selma to speak, unmute and speak and ask the question. Yes? Go ahead.
Pratap, I don't think she can ask the question. She'll have to type the question
Okay.
Into the bar there.
Okay, because I just saw that she has raised her hand, so I don't know what I'm supposed to do, Rohit.
So Selma, you can basically type in your comment or a question in the Q&A box.
Yeah, several of them are there. So put it in the Q&A box and we'll address these questions. Okay? All together when I'm done towards the end. Is that okay, Rohit?
Yeah, that's fine, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because I really can't see anything here, so I'm not able to tell. So fulfillment goes much deeper. So what are we searching for? When we come to work, I see work as a pilgrimage. Work is a pilgrimage of identity. When we go on a pilgrimage, where do we go? I mean, we go to Mecca or Medina, or we go to Mount Kailas or Kedarnath, or wherever we go on a pilgrimage. And work is that pilgrimage, right? So work is that pilgrimage, and it is a pilgrimage of an identity, and it usually takes us to a place from where we discover ourselves. It takes us to a place where, as a result of this journey, we transform ourselves and we find ourselves, we find our identity, who we are, through our work. So work is a great expression. So remember something, when you come to work for Lighthouse Learning, You are coming not to impress your bosses, but you're coming to express yourselves. That's the important thing for you to keep in mind. You're coming here to express yourselves. And therefore, and every organization operates at 3 levels. Why do we do what we do? Which is the collective cause or belief, what the organization stands for, the driving force. How do we do it? The guiding principles and actions that make us stand out. And then finally, what do we do? In fact, what happens is most of us spend a lot of time talking about what we do, but not enough time talking about why we do it and how we do it. So this is something that's very important in the journey. And what we are going to undertake, Prajod, Rohit, and I have talked, and with your leadership team and with everybody else, to identify and come up with a purpose statement to understand that why. So who is leadership, who Lighthouse Learning is, and what do we stand for? Does our company reflect our beliefs? So this is a very important question. So here is an exercise for you to do once again, is tell specific stories of when you have felt most proud working for EuroKids or Lighthouse Learning. When did you feel the most proud? What have you experienced? What have you experienced Lighthouse Learning that it stands for its best? It is about what you have given, not what you have got. So do this little exercise. Now Rohit is also going to do workshops with you to actually identify this. So prepare your stories and be ready with these stories and share these stories. If you proactively share it with Rohit, that would be wonderful. Otherwise, talk to him or share it with your friends or share it with your managers, but talk about this. Stories of how you have felt so proud that you are now working, or you have been working for the last 3 years at least, maybe, for Lighthouse Learning. And what have you experienced? So that's the first thing. The second thing, in each of your stories, what was the specific contribution that Lighthouse Learning made to the lives of others? The specific contribution, what have you all done? And capture the action infinitives, like use words like we engaged, we inspired, we enriched, we built, we connected, we trusted, we enjoyed, we achieved, we resolved. Use that language in terms of how each of these stories made a specific contribution. And then the last one is, what was your impact? What did those contributions of Lighthouse Learning allow others to go on to do or to become? How did their lives get impacted? How was their lives different after they interacted with Lighthouse Learning when you were at your best? So we want to hear the human impact. You see, the competition can offer the same product. What? The what. The what of the business, the competition can offer, but never the same why. Why does Lighthouse Learning exist? Now, this is the biggest single competitive advantage that you can have. And this competitive advantage is what is going to give you resilience in times like COVID, for example, when companies that do well, I've had instances of many companies. One of my clients is Ambit that I work for, which is an investment bank. And they have many commercial products. And, they have had a history of not being able to achieve their numbers. And it is such irony that in the period of COVID, when we did all the work around the purpose statement and everybody understood what it was and everybody got aligned with it, this year they're doing probably the best business they have ever done. And this is in the time of COVID. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something. Yes, I understand that in your business, when the schools can't be opened, it's difficult. But there are many things that you can do to meet the adaptive challenge for how you can use this time to build it for the future. So understand these three conversations, these 3 questions, and we will have more conversations with you around this. So here's an example of my own example of my company. My purpose statement: we are here to help leaders to live their professional and personal lives with greater satisfaction, to spread joy, well-being, to elevate, educate, and maximize performance potential. You know, from the day I wrote this purpose statement for myself, there is only one question I ask myself, and that is this: am I living my purpose? And if I am living my purpose, I don't have to worry about the numbers. The numbers will come. They are a byproduct. They will come. Let me live my purpose sincerely and authentically. And if I'm doing that, everything will fall in place. Unilever, our mission is to add vitality to life. We meet everyday needs for nutrition, hygiene, and personal care with brands that help people feel good, look good, and get more out of life. That's why we exist. So there are many instances. Oh, I'm giving you an instance of McKinsey and Company to help our clients make distinctive, lasting, and substantial improvements in their performance, and to build a great firm that attracts, develops, excites, and retains exceptional people. There are many other. Starbucks to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, one neighborhood at a time. Caring for the world, one person at a time. Johnson & Johnson to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. Nike. So everybody resonates with the purpose statement of why we exist. And that is the drive. That's the engine that takes you further and further and keeps you motivated and engaged and involved in the organization and feel good about yourself. So purpose is the first step of the journey. And then after you've done and worked on the purpose, then you ask yourself that we need to develop a common vision that is linked to Lighthouse Learning's purpose. So we link vision to purpose. A plan without a vision is just boredom. It's sheer boredom. It's drudgery. A vision without a plan is just a dream. Now, when you create a vision and then you build a plan around that vision, you can change the world. So it's a definition of Lighthouse Learning in N number of years in the future, different both quantitatively and qualitatively from the current state. It is an idealized view of where and what you would like to be in the future. So you can have big, hairy, audacious goals with specific metrics. And it could be 5 years from now or 10 years from now. So it's a desired future state. When you're working on your vision, you ask yourself, what does winning mean for you? What is the definition of success? What do I want to be when I grow up? And if I had a magic wand, and if I used that magic wand and I could get everything that I wanted, what would I want? It's a great test, the magic wand test. And now I want you to do another exercise. The year is 2025 or 2030, and you are in the ballroom of a 5-star hotel at dinner, and an award is being announced for the organization that, and Lighthouse Learning is getting recognized. What are they saying? Why are you getting the award? Ask yourself this question and write it down. See what comes up and share it with Rohit, because that's something he would like to know. That in the future, what would Lighthouse Learning get recognition for? Now, a video starts in the hotel and a well-known industry spokesman, a client, is speaking about Lighthouse Learning. And the thing that makes Lighthouse Learning special, he says, is, what does he say? What makes Lighthouse Learning special? I could not agree more, says another client. Lighthouse Learning is so deserving of this award because. And what's he saying? Or what is she saying? And then, what are you as employees of Lighthouse Learning are proud? And here's what you are saying. In 2025, what are you saying when the award is given? And what is Prajot saying when he takes this award and his mind goes back to 2021, when we first started this journey? And what does he say? Think about these things. Think about these things and write them down. And if you can, send them to Rohit, and we'd love to hear from you. And here are some questions you want to test yourself. Do you find this vision exciting? Is it clear? Is it compelling? Is it easy to understand? Does it connect to your core purpose? Will it excite all employees? Does it pass the Mount Everest test? It's an interesting question. Are we climbing a small hill? Or are we climbing the mountain of all mountains, Mount Everest? You have to feel so good about yourself because you're not playing small. You're playing to win and playing big, where you will need to make quantum leaps in capabilities and consciousness to achieve this. It's not a just small step. It's big because you have to dream big. That's what the vision does. It unites everybody together with a very clear and compelling understanding of what does winning mean for me. And it also helps you to differentiate then Lighthouse Learning from others. Everybody wants to be profitable, but a company that can set an agenda to achieve that goal is going to set itself apart and inspire others. So shared success, what is the meaning of shared success? And what does it mean when we achieve our vision? But just the vision alone is not enough. It has to work alongside values. Now, we do our best work when we are surrounded by those who are insatiably curious, agile, and thrive in collaborative setups with a can-do attitude. I'm sure you've read this before or you've heard this before. And there are rock-solid values of fairness, transparency, excellence, customer centricity, and innovation. I'm going to share some experiences with you. What I have found is that these values are nothing. They mean absolutely nothing until you live them. So each one of you has to understand what's the implication of these values and how do these values impact my behaviors every day, every moment that I'm working in the organization. The disconnect between values, which remain on a poster, and Rohit has experience with this as well, they remain on posters and they don't get translated into behaviors, they mean nothing. So when you have a vision, then the vision has to be achieved without compromising on these values. And then you will see why it becomes important, because it contributes to culture. So from strategy to performance, this is a slide which was given to me by Jack Welch. He was a client of mine when I was at KPMG. And he lived this and he believed in this. And he attributed all his success to just this one slide. And he said, great strategy does not ever lead to great performance. It is the implementation of strategy that leads to great performance. And the implementation of strategy depends entirely on culture. And that's why Peter Drucker, in his most famous quote, said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Why? Because without culture, strategy has no meaning. It does not get translated into performance. And when we talk about culture, what is culture other than the values, the beliefs, and the behaviors of the people? That means your values, your beliefs, and your behaviors. And these are very, very important to understand. And I've captured it in it's called walking the talk. The key to leveraging culture to improve performance lies in matching the culture or attributes of to the organization's goals. No one culture is better than the other, but some cultures might be more appropriate in certain contexts than others. So when you have a culture, it is this. Values and beliefs is the foundation. So you saw the values, and then what are your beliefs? Can you imagine what your behaviors would be if you actually believed? And I'm going to give you a few beliefs. For me to be right, I need others to be wrong. That's a belief. My self-worth increases only when I find fault with others. That's a belief. I do not trust others because if I do, they will take advantage of me. That's a belief. People cannot be held accountable for what they do not control. External circumstances that I cannot control drives my performance. So these are beliefs, and all these beliefs For example, here's another belief. We can either increase market share or we can improve profitability. We cannot do both. That's a belief. Each of these kinds of beliefs leads to behaviors, and those behaviors are self-limiting behaviors. And those self-limiting behaviors will not allow you to achieve your performance goals, will not allow you to achieve your vision. So this is the reason why culture becomes so important, because behaviors, symbols, and systems connect with culture based on the foundation of values and beliefs. So the values and beliefs together shape behaviors, shape symbols, and shape systems. So what is a symbol, for example? A symbol, I remember when I designed a new office, when I was at an organization, I designed a new office. And one of the things that we said was, look, all the large offices by the windows typically go to the partners. Let us turn this thing around and send a message to people that you are important. And so we put all the staff on the side with the windows and the great views, and we put the partners against the wall with no views, and we sent a clear message to people. And the corner office, by the way, doesn't belong to the CEO. The corner office was a conference office with a conference room, or it was a place to meet clients. So it is a clear symbol, a message being given in terms of our culture, the way we do things here. So that's how culture means. Culture means the way we do things here, right? It's a set of living relationships. It is our behaviors. It is our actions. It is a function of who we are being, which is based on our values and our beliefs. So who are we being? When we work at Lighthouse Learning, who are we being? This is the important difference that makes the connection between strategy and performance. Implementation and execution of strategy cannot happen without the right culture in place. And when we say that, what we mean is people behaving in the way they need to behave. Right. So I'm showing you a few cultures here: achievement culture, a customer-centric culture, one team culture, innovative culture, people-first cultures. These are all different cultures, and they all drive different behaviors, core behaviors. Now you can have a core culture, and then you can have a set of subsidiary cultures, but the beliefs, the values, the behaviors, the symbols, the systems will shift and change according to which culture you choose. And this is something that we are working on, and we will work on these, and we will present it to you as different options and understanding of what the belief should be if we choose a certain culture. And that becomes then the Lighthouse Learning culture, which is what will connect us to our vision and our purpose. So it requires a certain mindset. How changing beliefs, even the simplest ones, can have profound effects on performance. And mindset is basically attitude. The way you do things, it is about how you think about yourself. So is it a fixed mindset or is it a growth mindset? So the two mindset, one is a success mindset and the other is a failure mindset. So success mindset are things that can be cultivated, and that what you keep doing, you can become smarter. Not only are they discouraged by failure, they didn't even think that they were failing. They thought they were learning. In other words, when you make a mistake, if you have a success mindset, when you make a mistake, you learn from it. There's nothing wrong with it. So failure does not scare you. But if you have a failure mindset, then if you could arrange successes and avoid failures at all costs, you can stay smart. That's the thinking. Struggles, mistakes, perseverance. This is not just part of this picture. So when you have a fixed mindset, right? So what is a fixed mindset? A fixed mindset is a mindset which says that I am not going to take a chance. My reputation, my status, everything has to be preserved. I don't want to be proved wrong. I don't want anybody to think less of me. So I have to protect myself at all times. I will not be vulnerable. That way I will never learn. And whatever I have learned, I'm happy with that. I'll stay with it. I'm not going to grow anymore. But a growth mindset is one that is willing to explore, willing to experiment, willing to do new things, try new things, and they're not worried about their ego. It doesn't matter. I may not succeed, I may fail, it doesn't matter. So what are the consequences of thinking that your intelligence or personality is something you can develop as opposed to something that is fixed and it's deep-seated? So that's the kind of mindset that you need to ask yourself. What mindset do I have today? Am I willing to take chances? Am I willing to experiment? Am I willing to explore? Exploration is a very important word. It's a great word. Thomas Eliot is the one who said, "Thou shalt not cease from exploration." And when you're done with all the exploring, you will find that you will return to the place where you first started, and you will see it for the first time again. So it's a continuous process of growing and learning and learning and growing. And this is really a very important aspect, is that if you do not have that growth mindset, what we lose is trust. We have absence of trust, fear of conflict, lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, inattention to results. This then becomes a dysfunctional culture. And you definitely don't want that. So here's a very important question to ask yourself. What do I need to leave behind in order to work beyond my current level of performance? And ask yourself, each one of you is carrying a major burden. What is this rock that you are carrying? Identify this rock. Identify this rock, because this is the rock that is preventing you from performing to your fullest potential. And you know what this rock is? 9 out of 10 times, this rock is your belief. It's time to put it aside and free yourself and liberate yourself and recognize that your performance can fly. You can do so much better. The difference between winners and losers is just this capacity. This capacity to be able to make the mind complex enough to make it more complex than the external business circumstances. And I want to leave you with one other comment, which is that not everything that is faced can be changed. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed unless it is faced. I repeat, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. So any challenge can be overcome if you have the right mindset, if you have the right attitude, and that right attitude creates the right behavior. And collectively, the collective behavior is the culture. And that culture is the one that's going to help Lighthouse Learning win and live like someone has left the gate open. I love this picture, and I'll stop here at this point of time. I'll stop here at this point of time and take questions. But remember this picture, live like someone left the gate open. Thank you.
Thanks, Pratap. So we will take some questions now which have come in.
Sure.
So we have some questions in the inbox already, and I also have one question to ask, but I will possibly begin with the ones that are already there in the inbox.
Sure.
So This is a question from Rajiv, and he says that, in tough times, how do leaders deal with the paradox of balancing strategy, managing expectation on the bottom line delivery, and still lead with empathy and upholding the values?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. It's a great question. And the answer I could take at least half an hour to cover that, but let me try and make it as simple as possible. The answer lies in the development of the leader's mind. So there is vertical development that has to take place, which means that there is a need for enlightenment. So it is the inner journey of self-discovery to be able to grow the mind of the leader. So there is a direct connection between how evolved a leader's mind is in terms of its capacity to be able to deal with external circumstances, where the leadership mind understands that external circumstances do not control me. My locus of control is internal. I make things happen. Things don't happen to me. So it is that mindset. So this mindset is what we call enlightened thinking or evolved thinking, which has to combine with pragmatism. So it's the result or the outcome is enlightened pragmatism. A combination of the two that work together in tandem so that you are able to take the internal consciousness of the leader and combine it with a pragmatism that is necessary to solve pragmatic, practical problems. And the two of them have to coexist. And that is called polarized thinking, because you deal with these two polarities. Apparently, they seem to be in conflict. Apparently, they seem to be in conflict, that it's either this or that. But that's how a leader who has evolved is able to differentiate himself by saying, no, it's not either this or that, it's this and that. So I can do this and I can do that. I can increase my prices and I can increase market share at the same time. And I know how I'm going to do that. So it's not either or. So this requires a leadership mind that is capable of reconciliation, to be able to reconcile two apparently conflicting dilemmas. I can increase customer satisfaction and I can reduce cost at the same time. It requires evolved thinking. If the thinking is not evolved, you succumb to the pressure and say, ye to ho hi nahi sakta. Because if we raise prices, we will lose business. That's the belief. And that is a constraint of a belief that you have self-imposed. And you break that belief first before you are able to perform to your fullest potential. So you see how belief systems are the biggest chains that shackle you. So that's why it's possible to grow the mind and then you do both.
Sure. Thanks, Pratap. There is another one from Vipul Juria. Vipul says that, one of the challenges that he has faced, and I'm sure other managers and leaders have also faced, is that people link work to be done, proportionate to the remuneration that they earn. And hence they consider any kind of additional work as burden rather than opportunity to learn. And therefore, how does one cultivate the learning mindset?
Yeah. So first question, so the first issue really is asking the bigger question: why do I come to work? And if your answer is it's a job and I come to work for money, then we've lost the battle already. Money is a byproduct. Of course, you have to be paid and you will be paid. But what is more important is to ask yourself, what am I here for in terms of how do I seek fulfillment? Let me give you an example and then it'll become clear to you. There is this friend of mine who was walking down the street. He was in Italy, and he was walking down the street and he saw some people on the side of the street and they were doing some work. So he went up to them and he said, "What are you doing?" And the guy said, "Look, I'm taking this big rock and I'm breaking it into smaller pieces." So he said, "Okay." Then he went to the next guy and says, and what are you doing?" And he said, "Look, when this guy breaks the rock into smaller pieces, I'm sorting the rocks according to the size and according to their colors and arranging them." So he said, "Okay." Then he saw an old man doing something. He went up to him and said, "Sir, what are you doing here?" And his answer was, "I am helping to build a cathedral." The question that every person needs to ask when he's doing a job, am I here to break rock or am I building a cathedral? When John F. Kennedy went to NASA, he met a lot of people for the first time. He met a lot of people. And then he met this lady and he asked her, "And what are you doing here, lady?" And she said, "I'm working with a bunch of very talented scientists and I'm helping them to put man on the moon." And she was the receptionist. But she knew what was the vision. And she knew that she was a part of that vision.
Sure. So that's very insightful and something to ponder about, and which also brings alive the topic of the higher purpose and how organizations anchor people on
Yes.
the.
And therefore, Prajod's job is only one, and that is to continuously keep the purpose and vision on the radar. Because that's the thing, that is the only thing that matters. Why do we exist? And how do we exist? How do we do what we do? And then what we do? So that everybody resonates and everybody realizes that I'm here not to break rock, but we are building a cathedral and we'll build it together.
Sure. So there is another one from Sai, and Sai says that how do you seed in a uniform culture in a fast-growing organization, and especially if the growth is not only organic but also inorganic, where maybe we are doing on-the-go integration of distinct entities, and therefore unique cultures coming together, and therefore how do you seed that common culture?
Fantastic. This is a great question. Now, the question can be addressed at two levels. One is, the entities, are they integrated? If they are not integrated, and if they are separate entities, they are separate brands. And if they are separate brands, they have separate brand promises. And those brands have separate brand values, in which case you could have a separate culture as well. But if you integrate it into the umbrella of Lighthouse Learning, then you've got to integrate the culture and you have to integrate the brand. Now, one of the most important things besides purpose, values, purpose, vision, values, and culture is the brand, because then the brand also has to promise the same language, has to promise exactly, got to be aligned with the purpose and the vision. So the brand is important. Now, if you want to have an integrated culture, the way to do that is through a set of guiding principles. A set of guiding principles that cannot be compromised. Everybody has to follow those guiding principles. Now, you have the liberty of having different brands and different positioning, but you do not change or compromise on these guiding principles, because those guiding principles are common to everybody who joins Lighthouse Learning. So you weave that in, and that's how you bring about a sense of identity, a sense of alignment and balance with everybody, irrespective of, because it's an inorganic culture and people come with their own behaviors. So those behaviors will, if they are conflicting with those principles, then you have to do work to change them. You cannot allow, this is Deutsche Bank. I'll tell you something. Deutsche Bank is a classic example of a bank that grew through many acquisitions and many people that they brought in large groups from various other places. And they became bigger and bigger until disaster hit them, because every single group of people that came together came with their own culture and their own practices and their own beliefs and their own behaviors, and they could not integrate. And they failed miserably. So it is essential and critical that you integrate. And integration leads from the integration of alignment of purpose, alignment of vision, alignment of values and guiding principles with core beliefs.
Sure. Thanks for answering that. There is another question from Ragini Rawat, and she says that what are the beliefs that are conducive to growth?
Okay, so here's a very important belief. External circumstances do not control me. That's a belief. I am not afraid of making a mistake. That's a positive belief. Every time I make a mistake, I'm going to learn from it. That's a belief. Here's another belief, that all contracts or appointment letters, all of those appointment letters are not for effort, they are for performance. Here's another belief. 2 years of non-performance means I do not have a right to stay. That's a belief. Right? Here's another belief, which is, if I get an opportunity to learn, I will not refuse it because I'm afraid I may not succeed.
Sure. Thanks, Pratap. There is one more question from Divakar. And Divakar says that in a fast growing setup, there is so much movement of people in and out. How do you ensure culture is still practiced by everyone in action? And is there a way to see this action and correct as necessary?
Yes, absolutely. And that's a very good question. Is that when there is churn or attrition, the responsibility falls entirely on Rohit and his team in terms of who they are hiring. So the biggest responsibility is at the time of hiring. Are you hiring based on culture fit, or are you just hiring based on a person's technical knowledge of the job alone? The big mistake that most organizations make is that they have a very well-defined job skills requirement for a particular role, and they see that, but they do not look for or assess for culture fit. So for example, we were having a conversation with another client recently, is you have a person who's brilliant, who's absolutely brilliant, but he's a prima donna. He's a prima donna, and he's a lone ranger, and he will not collaborate, cooperate, and work with anybody because he sees himself as the star, and he only wants to get recognition for himself. How long do you think this guy will survive? Should he be hired in spite of the fact that he's so smart and he will definitely help us? So short term versus long term. Yes, in the short term, he'll help, but in the long term, no. So don't hire such people. So hiring for culture fit is very, very important. The next thing that you have to do is something which I have initiated, and we should talk about it ourselves for Lighthouse Learning, is pulse surveys. So one question to ask all employees, just one question to ask once a month, and get everybody's response to that question. That is a lot better than doing a end of the year engagement survey. A continuous process of collecting feedback based upon culture, pulsing the organization across every single employee every month.
Sure. There is a question which says that you mentioned Peter Drucker's quote, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast."
Yes.
So, in your experience as a professional coach, have you seen this play out?
Yes. The answer is yes, and without exception. Every organization which has succeeded has only succeeded because of the fact that their leaders have understood that it is the culture of the organization that will decide whether or not the strategy will be implemented. If you remember when we did the Mount Everest climbing exercise, one of the things that we said is so critical is that we have to climb together. And if you're not climbing together, if you're not collaborating, if you're not cooperating, the chances are that you will die yourself on the mountain, but you will also end up killing a lot of your colleagues as well. There is a very nice Kenyan proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. That spirit is the one that makes all the difference. At the end of the day, organizations that succeed are able to succeed only because of the people in the organization whose behaviors are aligned with the vision and the purpose. So there is tremendous proof to demonstrate that this happens every time. I've coached organizations around the world and specifically in India as well. The successful companies are the ones that are constantly keeping an eye on the culture, keeping an eye on how people are behaving, keeping an eye on whether those behaviors are consistent with what we need to be able to achieve the milestones for our vision. And that's another important thing, is everybody in an organization where culture is paid attention to, everybody knows the milestones. What milestones have to be hit for us to know that we are on the right track and we are achieving our vision? That's what brings success to them.
Sure. I'm conscious of time. There is one last comment stroke question, which says that human motivation, and this is from Ketaki, and Ketaki says human motivation is a complex phenomenon.
Yes.
What motivates us? Why do we do what we do? How can we do more or better? Intriguing.
Yes, and I think what you have raised, Ketki, is a very good point, and it gives me an opportunity to tell you about the evidence that has been gathered around the world working in organizations is this: that motivation is triggered by three things. The first is autonomy. How much autonomy are you giving to people to express themselves? The greater the autonomy, the greater the motivation. Second, mastery. How much opportunity are you giving your people to gain mastery on the subject that they need to gain mastery to be able to do their job even better? So opportunities for learning, opportunities for training, opportunities for coaching, opportunities for development. How much opportunity do you give me? That is a big motivating factor. And the third one, no surprise, is purpose. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Three greatest motivators.
Sure.
And remember, the important thing is, and for all leaders in the organization, when we want, what do we want from people? And this is the very important thing. What we want from people is contribution, not compliance. And that's a huge, huge gap, because if you go as a leader seeking compliance, all you're doing is controlling and telling all the time, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Your job is not to think. Your job is to just do, because I am telling you, because I'm your boss. As opposed to contribution, which is about soliciting ideas, which is about giving people an opportunity to express themselves, and in fact, giving them the autonomy to do the things that they need to do. Even if they make a mistake, it's an opportunity to learn and correct yourself and go back and do it better. Make sense?
Sure. So I think with that, I'm just conscious of time. We are 7 minutes past India time 5. Prajot, over to you.
Thanks, Rohit, and thank you, Pratap, for this very insightful first session of Sparks. Clearly sparked a lot of questions for sure, and also sparked, I guess, a lot of introspection amongst ourselves. 2013 is when we, as a small group of people, met to what we said to create a vision statement for this organization, which was back then EuroKids, and created a vision statement and a set of values. I think come 2021, now as Lighthouse Learning, it's time for us to revisit it. And as you said, as Gavaskar says, take fresh guard. It's time for us to take fresh guard and revisit some of the things that we spoke about in 2013 of saying, is this who we are? Is this what we're true for? Is it why we exist per se there? To ask that question again. And the plan for us as an organization, Pratap, is to now in 2021 to kind of regroup and kind of take fresh guard. So clearly we will be embarking onto that exercise of creating the vision, the shared purpose, and a mission for ourselves there. And if you just think about the organization that we are and the work that we do, it so beautifully lends itself to the purpose, right? I'm saying, if you think about so many other businesses, if you're in the business of, let's say, selling soaps, even to be able to find purpose, of course, the purpose is about hygiene, but when you're in the business of able to make an impact in people's life, I guess the purpose is so very easy to feel for oneself there. And that really is the goal. And I'm happy to partner along with you, and so is the team, to be able to drive this. But thank you for this session.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy that we got a chance to kickstart this. And it's a journey; it's a long journey, and as always, a long journey starts with the first few steps. And I think we have taken those first few steps today. And I just want to remind everybody that there are a few responses that I had asked for because of the paucity of time. Obviously, I couldn't do justice to it, but I hope that you have registered. Those questions have registered in your mind. And if you have any inputs, please send it to Rohit. because that would be very useful, particularly those who have been here in Lighthouse Learning or EuroKids long enough, should be able to answer those questions in terms of, particularly what makes you feel proud, events, specific events, things that have happened, which made you feel proud of, I'm working here, and feel good about yourself and what you gave. And the other question in terms of how you made a contribution and what was the impact on how it changed their lives of people. So those instances are very important. Share them with Rohit, and we will also be conducting workshops to start drawing out these things from you as a part of a process of collecting inputs for our discussion with the leadership team.
Thank you, Pratap.
Thank you
for
very
the
much.
session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rohit, and good evening, everybody, and look forward to working with all of you on a wonderful, wonderful journey.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Take care, everyone.